Welcome back to Bookkast. You know the deal, bestsellers in minutes, and today we're taking a deep dive into Percival Everett's James. It's been generating quite a bit of buzz, and I think you're really going to find it fascinating.
What makes this one especially interesting is that Everett's not just telling any story here. He's actually reimagining a classic, The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, but from a totally new angle.
Oh, a classic retold. I'm intrigued. So where's the twist? What makes this story Everett's own?
Well, right off the bat, he uses this really clever framing device, a notebook. And supposedly, this notebook belonged to the guy who wrote Dixie, Daniel Decatur Emmett. Pretty provocative, right?
Yeah, that definitely sets a certain tone from the get-go.
And there's another interesting tidbit. The book's dedicated to Danzy Senna. She's actually Everett's wife.
Ah, that's a sweet touch. I always love those little personal details. Okay, so let's get into the story itself. James is divided into 3 parts, and part 1 immediately immerses you in Jim's world. Everett's use of dialect is incredible, like you're right there on the Mississippi with him.
Totally. And the dialect does so much more than just create authenticity. It subtly highlights the power dynamics at play. And then he weaves in these songs and folk tales, which not only create this rich atmosphere, but also serve as a commentary on the realities of Jim's life.
Yeah, like that scene where Jim catches Huck stealing candles. It's funny at first, but then you realize it really underscores the vast difference in their childhoods. Huck's worried about getting in trouble, but for Jim, the stakes are so much higher.
You hit the nail on the head. That seemingly small detail speaks volumes about Jim's precarious position. And then there's that dream Jim has about New Orleans.
Oh yeah, New Orleans, the city represents this beacon of freedom and escape. But the dream also reveals a harsh truth. Even if Jim manages to get there, what then? Without resources, without support, freedom wouldn't mean much.
Such a crucial point. And this segues into Jim's relationship with Sadie and Lizzie, the woman he loves, and their daughter.
This is where things start to get really heartbreaking. The constant threat of being sold looms over their lives. And it's that very threat that drives Jim's decision to run. He's not just thinking about himself, he's trying to protect his family.
Exactly. This constant tension between his internal desire for freedom and all these external forces trying to control him.
Okay, so Jim's on the run, seeking refuge on Jackson Island. And things take a really interesting turn here. He runs into Huck.
And that's a huge departure from Twain's Huckleberry Finn. In Everett's version, their paths cross much earlier. It completely changes the dynamic of their relationship.
Now I'm dying to know how that plays out. But before we get there, we have to talk about that mind-blowing fever dream with Voltaire. Jim literally debating Enlightenment philosophy with one of its icons, all while dealing with a snakebite.
It's such a brilliant scene, and it goes way beyond mere spectacle. Everett uses this dream to critique the limitations of Enlightenment thinking when it comes to the issue of slavery. Voltaire, even as he argues for equality, can't see past his own biases. He views Africans as inherently different.
It's a stark reminder that even some of the most progressive thinkers of that time couldn't fully grasp the horrors of slavery. And then, just when you think it can't get any more surreal, we have Huck dressing up as a girl.
Oh yeah, that scene is pure genius. It's funny and poignant all at once. It really emphasizes how their roles are starting to shift. Huck is becoming more and more reliant on Jim, and Jim, despite the danger, steps up to protect him.
It's amazing how Everett manages to use humor so effectively here. It's a way to highlight the absurdity of racism and slavery without minimizing the seriousness of the situation. It's really thought-provoking.
You said it. He walks that tightrope perfectly. And then buckle up, because part 3 takes us on another wild ride. So we're diving back into James and picking up where we left off, with Jim facing the harsh realities of his situation and trying to find his family.
Yeah, and it's like, just when you think things can't get any more intense, that moment when Jim returns to his family's shack and finds it occupied by strangers, absolutely gut-wrenching.
Really drives home the precariousness of their lives, you know? Families torn apart, displaced, and it just strengthens Jim's resolve to find Sadie and Lizzie.
Right, and that determination leads to this really powerful confrontation with Judge Thatcher. He's basically the embodiment of the system that's kept Jim enslaved.
It's a pivotal scene, that encounter in the boat. Jim takes control, forces Thatcher to row him down the river. This complete reversal of roles.
Yeah, it's more than just physical, too.
Yeah.
Jim refuses to play the subservient role, challenges Thatcher's assumptions, makes him acknowledge his own part in the system.
It must have been pretty unnerving for Thatcher, to say the least. And then that final image, Jim leaving Thatcher stranded, alive but stripped of authority. It's symbolic, right? Jim rejecting that whole system.
It really makes you think about what justice even means in a system that's inherently unjust. For Jim, true freedom is escaping the system altogether.
And that idea extends beyond him, too. That's what's so powerful about his decision to free the other enslaved men at the Graham farm. It's a gesture of solidarity.
Yeah, true liberation can't be achieved alone. And that final scene, Jim, Sadie, Lizzie, Morris, and Buck running toward this uncertain future, it's not a neat and tidy ending, but there's that powerful sense of hope.
Really captures the essence of the book: resilience, resistance, and the belief that even in the face of unimaginable hardship, the human spirit perseveres.
We're back, diving right back into the final stretch of James with all its twists and turns.
And there are definitely a few more surprises in store. Picking up where we left off, that whole scene with Jim returning to his family's shack and finding strangers there, man, that was rough.
You really felt that loss, right? Not just Jim's personal loss, but like on a broader scale, all those enslaved families torn apart.
Absolutely. And that feeling of loss kind of fuels his determination to find Sadie and Lizzie.
And it leads him right to Judge Thatcher, you know, the guy who represents the system that's kept Jim enslaved this whole time. It's such a powerful scene.
That boat scene, I mean, come on, Jim taking charge, making Thatcher row him down the river. And it's more than just the physical reversal, right? It's like Jim refuses to use that subservient tone. He looks Thatcher in the eye and just lays it all out, makes him see his own part in this messed up system.
I bet Thatcher was sweating bullets.
Oh, for sure. And then when Jim just leaves him there, stranded.
Yeah.
Symbolic, right? A rejection of that whole system.
Totally. Makes you wonder about justice. You know, like what does it even mean in a system that's so deeply unjust? For Jim, true freedom is breaking free, getting out completely.
And that idea, it goes beyond just him. That's what's so powerful about his decision to free those other men at the Graham farm.
It's like an act of solidarity, showing them that true liberation. You can't do it alone. And then that final scene, man. Jim, Sadie, Lizzie, Morris, Buck, all running towards this unknown future.
So much uncertainty, right? But there's also that glimmer of hope. It's beautiful in a way.
It's an ending that sticks with you. Everett does a brilliant job of wrapping up all those themes.
Yeah.
Resilience, the fight for freedom, hope.
He doesn't give you all the answers, but he leaves you with this feeling that even in the face of unbelievable hardship, the human spirit can overcome.
And that's what we try to do here at Bookkast, bring you these incredible stories, make you think, make you feel, all in a matter of minutes. James was a powerful one, that's for sure.
If you're looking for more from Percival Everett, Erasure and the Trees are definitely worth checking out.
He's a master storyteller. Anyway, that wraps up our deep dive into James. Thanks for joining us here on Bookkast. Catch you next time.